This story actually began many months ago. We received a letter charging that minority high school students were being promoted despite having F's, D's, and incompletes on their report cards. With the letter came more than 24 photocopied transcripts. According to the school district's own rules, a student has to pass 10 courses to move to the next grade. Each course is worth a half credit. This student flunked 8 out of 12 courses in 9th grade and was promoted to 10th. This young woman flunked 7 out of 12 courses in 9th grade. Nevertheless, she was promoted to 10th grade. This young man spent a year and a half in 9th grade. During that time, he took 18 courses, flunked 10 of them, and got an incomplete in 1 other course. He, too, was promoted to 10th grade. At first, we were skeptical. Were the transcripts fraudulent? Or was this a glaring example of what educators call social promotion? That is, moving kids forward, keeping them with their age group even though they flunked, because being held back actually increases the probability of dropping out. We went to the inner city high school, and we discovered that the situation may be worse. Apparently, some students are failing forward right up to and including graduation itself. Graduation day is a moment of triumph. It is for this young woman, Alethea Avalon. The school valedictorian, she's earned a full scholarship to Stanford University. This day should also be the crowning moment for the other 176 seniors graduating with her. After all, they're the survivors of this inner city school. Out of a 9th grade class that began with 426 students, only 177 have made it to graduation. That's a 58% dropout rate. The diploma should stand as a symbol of accomplishment and hard work, but at least one new graduate says it's not.
I work my hardest. I mean, I come to school, I come to class, and I gotta do like all the work, but then some people that never come to class, never come to school, and all of a sudden they graduate with me. I mean, how can that be? I could have stayed home and did nothing, and they just slide them through. It's like, they just want to pass them. Like some teachers, just pass them just because of the fact that they don't want to see them next year as well. I don't want to see you next year, so you pass.
Byron Dorsey asks a good question. How can that be? According to the system, in order to graduate, a student has to pass 44 courses in 4 years, maintain at least a C- average, and pass a state competency test. At least one of those hurdles ought to trip up and identify non-performing students. But it's a seriously flawed system, and social promotion is just the beginning of the story.
What do you mean you're not graduating?
The principal, Ruben Trinidad, is hardworking and relentlessly optimistic. But Trinidad accepts social promotion as a fact of life. He says there's nothing he can do to stem the tide of unprepared students that junior high schools send him.
I'm sure this is true at most high schools in the state of California, that a lot of kids that are being transferred here on social promotion because of age, because of their age.
Because retention doesn't work?
Well, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense to have a 16-year-old at an 8th grade class, or at a school that's a junior high or a middle school. You know, he's too big for those kids. He's too mature for those kids.
I remember in junior high school there was this one student who failed, I believe, twice, and because he failed twice, he could not graduate. But they ended up taking him from the 8th grade and letting him graduate past the 9th grade and then into high school.
What happens once these failing students deemed too old for junior high are pushed up to the high school? Gay Panagiotopoulos gets many of them assigned to her 9th grade Spanish classes.
Most of them are really quite intelligent, but sometimes I get the feeling that they're undereducated for where they should be. Or at least the way I see it. Not dumb at all, not at all. Uneducated.
How'd they get to 9th grade?
Past 8th grade.
She says they're not prepared to handle the material and end up dropping out of sight.
I had 6 in attendance. I have actually 32 on the roll.
And you had 6?
I had 6, but I usually only average somewhat close to that.
Where are the others?
Most of the others didn't show up more than maybe 1 day, 2 days.
This semester?
That's correct.
Are they in school?
Some of them are. Some of them drop in occasionally. It pushes my attendance up in the 6th period. That particular class is the class that arrived here in February.
From junior high school?
From junior high school. It was certainly a group of students who didn't arrive here at the time that they were expected. So they were graduated or passed up or, as you said, pushed up and arrived in February.
The reason that you generate such poor grades is because you haven't been here.
The high school has 4 guidance counselors for 1,400 students, 350 kids per counselor. Though they understand why promoting kids who fail is done, none condones it. Myrna Baston says it hurts the student as well as the society.
Sometimes the school just makes a decision to send them on.
We get social promotion students from the junior high. That is correct.
Tell me about that. How does that work?
Well, it's not working very well. We do the best we can.
Some would say you're sending a message that you don't have to work to earn the rewards. And in some instances, when you see the results, the attitudes of the students once they get here, I would imagine that that is a damaging message to send.
Those are the students who usually drop out. You know, we have a large dropout rate in the inner cities in schools like this one, and they drop out.
Counselors maintain that the buck stops here. No more social promotion from 9th grade on.
We have a strict unit system, and unless they have earned the units, they are not promoted. Now that I can say with absolute certainty.
We don't do social promotion in the high school. As Mrs. Baston stated, if a student comes in as a 9th grader, he remains a 9th grader until he gets enough credits to go into 10th grade.
But the transcripts suggest a different story. I asked the counselors to check the transcripts we received in the mail against their computers.
He has 3 credits.
Out of the 22 needed?
Right.
So he should be a 9th grader.
Right.
He's listed as a 10th.
Yeah, well, that's an error.
Okay, so technically this student would still be a 9th grader.
But it says she's in 10th grade.
Okay, now, sometimes this happens on the transcript at the beginning of the year because when the programs are done in the spring for the following year, they are programmed by grade level. So automatically, all students who are in the 9th grade are programmed for the 10th grade.
Presumed passing until...
Yes, until the adjustments are made.
This particular student may have had enough credits. I'm not saying everyone is a social promotion.
But she somehow got to be a 10th grader. Or maybe that's another...
That's another error there.
Computer error isn't the only way to pass, according to students here.
Some teachers that if you come to school, you can get, good grades just by coming to class. Some teachers, if you don't disrupt them, if you don't bother them, if you don't, disrupt the class or anything, you can get an A or a B in the class without doing any work.
Some teachers here, they just pass you on, and the counselors try to help you with the credits that you need so you could get out of high school, but they prepare you for the class that you need to get into college. And then a lot of students have to go to JCs, junior colleges.
Yeah, you can pass with a D, but I was saying you can come and get an A or a B without any work. Yeah, if you come to class, they'll give you a D for coming. But I know some teachers that'll give you an A or a B just to do it.
The school definitely has a policy that students who show up and make some effort should be rewarded with some kind of a passing mark. And I've certainly have had peers say that they've been told that they better be making some kind of provision so that a higher percentage of their students will get some kind of passing credit.
Urban high schools don't exist in a vacuum. They're in neighborhoods like this one, racked by high crime, poverty, unemployment, drugs. Young people bring their family problems to school, and it's hard not to sympathize with beleaguered educators.
Because of the incidents, the growing incidence of guns and things like guns on campus, and so many of these students, they're unaware of, they don't seem to value life sometimes.
Are teachers here afraid of you?
They might be some are. There's a lot of them here that are afraid of the students, thinking they're going to beat them up if they give them a bad grade or something like that.
Teachers get beat up from former students who didn't like the teacher or gave them bad grades, who just come up here and beat them up.
Are you ever scared?
I was threatened. Yeah, I received some death threats this year. And it makes you think. You know, it really makes you think about where you are.
You stayed.
I stayed.
The alternative is if he's not at the high school, he or she's not at the high school, then that student is going to be out in the streets.
And
then he's going to be involved in some problem. And the community doesn't want that.
Community would rather have him.
Oh yeah, I'm sure the school board and the superintendent and people in the system would rather have that individual at the school site.
Well, with something like a holding pattern, we didn't have the public schools, things would be even worse.
What do you mean?
If we didn't have the public schools for students to come to, where would they go?
And you hear and see so much about these drive-by shootings and those kinds of things right now. That, yeah, it upset me. It definitely upset me.
Teachers' fears and the system's indifference, they help move students along. And apparently the curriculum also offers some bogus courses to give students a few quick and easy credits for graduation.
And they give you little classes like IWE and all kind of classes where you could get a small, easy credits.
IWE means?
In-house work experience. Like you just like help the teacher. You go to the office and deliver messages for the teacher and stuff. Things like that.
And that way you get a course credit.
Mm-hmm.
That counts as a class?
Yes.
Credit so you graduate.
Help you graduate?
That's a class.
Teachers acknowledge that they sometimes compromise their standards.
One of the requirements to graduate from high school is a 1.7 grade point average.
And a D is a 1.
A D is a 1. A D is a 1. So
straight D's, you don't graduate.
Straight D's, you do not graduate. You simply don't. So that's why they can encourage youngsters. Somewhat, you know, you give them a D and give them some kind of reward for being here, and perhaps they will change. They will get those grades up high enough and earn enough C's that they can pass.
It's easy to see how a teacher could rationalize a gift D. After all, you can't graduate from high school with a D average. You need a C minus. But as those students said, gift A's and B's are easy to come by. One veteran teacher said to me, "Do you know what it takes to fail my course? You'd have to be dead." And he said, "If you come to class, sit in the back of the room and don't make any trouble, I'll give you an A or a B." I said, "Say that on camera." He said, "I can't do that. If I told the truth, I'd lose my job."
That teacher who said that, you know, has the mentality of a teacher of the 60s or the 70s, or even the 80s, the early 80s. So that teacher has no concept of what an effective teacher needs to be in the 1990s.
Well, that wasn't the only teacher who said something like
I'm
that.
sure of that. I'm sure of that. It's not a matter of kids coming. It's because they're not challenging the kids. I mean, they have it in their mind just because certain students live in a certain area that they're not capable. And that's a bunch of bull.
It's true. Students do get stereotyped, pigeonholed. When Nico Slater started junior high, she expected to be in honors math, what the schools call gate math. But she was placed in low-level skills math.
Most of the people of color that attend urban schools get tracked for non-college courses. I know I had to battle with teachers in order to get me out of skills math and out of skills English into the gate math classes and English classes that I should have been in. And it shouldn't have been like that. I shouldn't have been tracked for non-college courses because I know I shouldn't have been tracked. I should have been put into gate math and gate English.
Maybe that's just a mistake.
There was not a mistake. It was not a mistake. I'm saying it could have been a mistake if I was the only student that it happens to, but it happened to a lot of students. I had people telling me that I'm not good enough for this, even though in my heart I knew I was, or I'd be struggling to get out of high school, or I'd leave high school and probably attend a community college, go to a vocational school and get a associate of arts or something like that, and not really become what I wanted to become. because I had people telling me that I couldn't do that.
Nico Slater won her battle and is now in college.
I would personally
Other
be
students
upset.
told similar stories of inadequate guidance counseling, but none blamed the counselors.
I don't blame the counselor. I blame the person that gave the counselor 350 kids.
But you blame the system.
I'm sorry, say again?
You blame the system, like you said, the system that gave that counselor 350 kids. She can't possibly help 350, you know, give them individual attention, no.
Michael, you started saying.
I was gonna say, I blame the system. I mean, if they had more money, you know, have more counselors, have better facilities, you wouldn't have a counselor with 300 kids.
Students seem to understand that they're being shortchanged by a system that lets them slide through.
If he got an A and just went to class and sat down and sleep and wait till the bell ring and get up and go to lunch or the next class or whatever, he was not learning nothing. He is just sitting there being stupid. But it's not necessarily his fault because the teacher is not making him do nothing or helping him.
Who gets hurt by that?
He does. The teacher get paid and he gets hurt for a run in the future.
Later down the road, when they get out of high school and then they go out trying to get into a college or look for a job, and then, you know, they have to take like a little test or something, they find out that they really don't have the skills for the job.
And then what?
Then they out on the street.
They gotta go work in something like McDonald's and fast food restaurants. That's what turns people into selling drugs sometimes. And just because they can't get into college because they didn't learn anything while they was in high school.
I sit there and I do my work, you know, and I go home and I do it. Yes, somebody, you know, don't put as much effort into it, or they might not even do nothing, but yet still they pass, and I feel like, you know, why am I doing the work when somebody else could do just or half as much as I do and still get by? And it angers me, you know, that the standards are so low, and I set my standards all the way up here, and it's like they're trying to tell me to lower them.
Kerry Washington is right. Even the competency test that students have to pass in order to graduate from high school, that's set at an 8th grade level. So how would people inside the system improve the school? The principal says more administrators.
I know what I need in order to make a change, and I need 3 assistant principals, 2 deans, and I can make some fantastic changes.
Or more teachers?
I think it takes a lot of individual effort. I think it takes certainly smaller class sizes.
Better teachers.
Put people in there that want to help them. I mean, not just anybody, but somebody that really want to take the time to help them. I mean, you know, you need somebody that want to be there.
I mean, I would have to get some teachers that really wanted to teach. I mean, teach and not just come here for a check.
A better environment at home.
Well, I think part of the problem is, I mean, where we live, the place we come from, you have a lot of distractions. I mean, a lot of the kids, you know, their family doesn't have money, they have to work, or they just want to make money, and, you know, they right now, money is a lot more important than their education.
A safer environment in the school.
Because that's the biggest factor here is safety, being able to come to school and learn not to worry about getting, you know, beat up or killed.
Stop all the kids from bringing guns or knives to school.
And even if you have anything to do with it, if you stay away from the gangs, like Quincy, he stood away from the gangs and everything, and he still got shot. He was an innocent bystander.
More respect for students' intelligence.
The biggest thing I change is more classes and more teachers who want you to do more than just sports. More teachers who, like, they cancel we had a nursing class, something like that. They don't even have that no more. More classes that deal with career.
We purposely omitted the name and location of this high school. It could be in any inner city in America, and we don't want to blame the dedicated people who work here or the many young people who are doing their best against tough odds. Social promotion does keep kids in school, but for what?
All the work that I did just to get to that point is nothing if you were letting this person pass and they haven't done nothing. They cut school all the time, and I did my work, you know, this person gets to walk across the stage with me. I mean, you know, hey, that's not fair, no.
Educators say they can't afford to provide the extra help these kids need, but can the society afford not to? Social promotion, gut courses, easy A's, all the compromises that allow students to slide through high school make every high school diploma suspect. Once you know there's counterfeit money on the street, you're suspicious of every $20 bill you see. But because for the most part, urban high schools serve minority youngsters, That makes the American promise of equal educational opportunity a lie.